Welcome to episode 3 of the Java with AI series. This episode will cover how to use Windsurf's chat feature to instantly rewrite code to make it more modern or in a different style, as well as instantly fix any bugs that our code might have. So here, as you can see, we have a snippet of code here. So this snippet of code is supposed to represent a profile inside a game, as revealed by this class name here, that can unlock specific achievements in a game. So in this main method, we're testing out this class by creating a new player and having them unlock an achievement. But if we run the Java code, you can see there's a null pointer exception. The program immediately crashes as soon as we run it, but we don't really know where the problem is. So a way we can find the error and fix it is by asking Windsurf to find the reason why it's crashing and the line of code where it actually crashes, as well as potential solutions to actually fix the bug. And so to assist the AI even more, we can even provide it the exact error message so that it's easier for Windsurf to track it down. So this is exactly what we can do here. So if we go to the Windsurf chat window, we can tell Windsurf that there's an exception when this code is run, and then we can ask it the reason behind the crash and possible ways to fix it. And we can also paste in this error message here. So we can highlight this error message and then right click to copy it and then paste it in here. And so now if we send it, then it'll tell us that the error is that the list here has not been initialized yet. And so then it tells us to change all the code up to this main method here. So we can just copy it and it's telling us the reason why the error occurred because we haven't initialized the list yet. So now if we were to run the Java code, you can see it works just fine now because the array list actually exists, meaning we can now add things to it without any errors. So now we know that even if we don't know what causes an error exactly, we can provide the error message to Windsurf and ask it to find it for us and provide a solution, which makes debugging a lot easier, especially on larger projects. So along with debugging, we can also ask Windsurf to refactor our code or rewrite our code by changing its structure without modifying what it actually does, just to make it look better or be written in a slightly different style. And we can do this in a similar way too, by prompting the AI to do what we actually want to get out of it. So here we have some code that takes in a specific role that a user has and then returns the amount of access that they have inside the dashboard of an application. So now if we run the Java code, you can see it works perfectly fine. Moderators can edit and delete user content, but if we look at the code here inside this get dashboard access method, we can see that it uses a lot of repetitive if and else if statements, which makes the code harder to read and harder to modify or extend in the future. So we can go back to Windsurf chat, and then if we wanted to focus on just this get dashboard access method, because that's where the problem is, then we can use the @ symbol to focus on it. And then we can say get dashboard access, and then that'll focus on just this method. So the AI won't be distracted by anything else we have going on. And so now we can ask it to refactor or rewrite this code to make it more readable and more modern using clean Java design patterns, because we want it to be more easily comprehensible by others who are looking at our code. So now we can send it, and now you can see we get some new code here, and it says, in this refactored version, we use a map to store the access levels for each role. And we initialize the map in a static block to avoid cluttering the constructor. And the access level is now being looked up inside the map. And because we can just put a new access level by putting in a role for the first value here, and then its level of access for the second value, which makes it much easier to extend if we wanted to add additional rules or access levels in the future. So now if we paste this new code in, you can see it looks much cleaner because we don't have a huge if-else block anymore. We can just put a new access level in by putting in a key, which is the role, and then the value, which is the level of access that people with this role have, making it much more extensible and easy to read. We can also speed up code or make it less resource heavy on our computer. So here you can see we have a new method that gets the range of a list, or array in this case, of numbers. So the range of a list of numbers in math is the difference between the largest value in the list and the smallest value in the list. So if we look at this list that we have here, you can see the smallest value that we have is 1 and the highest value is 7, meaning the range is 7 minus 1, which is 6. And if we run the code here, you can see that's what this returns. So if we look at this getRange method, however, you can see there are two loops inside. The first one is a loop to get the index of one of the numbers in the list, and the second loop, the inner one, is to get the index of another number inside of the list. So these two loops are basically testing every single combination of two different numbers in the list to see which two numbers have the greatest difference. And that greatest difference is what is returned in this range right here. But using two loops like this might not be the most effective or most efficient way of doing things. So we can actually ask Windsurf whether this is the most efficient way of getting the range of a list or not. So now you can see I've created a prompt here. Firstly, I focused on the getRange method only, and then I asked it if this code is optimal or not, and if not, then Windsurf should optimize the code to make it as efficient as possible. So we can send this message. And so it tells us that this method has a time complexity of O(n) squared because it uses nested loops. And so it's saying this can be optimized by using a single loop to iterate through the array and keep track of the maximum difference. And so instead of testing each combination of two different numbers, it just gets the minimum and maximum and calculates the range from that, which is much more direct and much more efficient. So the benefits of using this code here, this more optimized code, become really noticeable if we have a larger amount of numbers in this list. So if we run this Java code, accidentally ran it twice. So it takes like a split second or so to actually calculate the range. But if we were to use this method here, this improved method, you can see it's nearly instant. So you could see a small time difference with just 100 numbers like we have here, but for larger data sets which have thousands or even millions of numbers, this method of just looping through the list once instead of twice will save a lot of time in the long run. So now here's the challenge which we'll end the video with. So what you want to do is take a piece of code that we've previously written in the Java Basics series. So if you didn't watch the Java Basics series and just started watching the Java with AI series, it's fine. I'll put an additional piece of code in the description that you can just copy and paste. So anyway, once you've found your piece of code that you're going to use, ask Windsurf how you can refactor the code to make it cleaner and more professional looking, and then also try to understand why it made specific changes. Analyze the changes and try to understand why that actually makes it more professional, so that you now know the reason behind the AI's decision making. Thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. And episode 4, the next video, will be covering how we can actually test our code to make sure our apps never break and never have bugs in them that damage the user experience. Thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And in the next episode, we'll be going over a technique that professional developers use to ensure that their apps never have serious issues.